This report covers the way prisoners of war, POWs, use secrecy to gain intelligence about the war, to communicate with the outside world, and to boost morale. The main focus point that we place our focus in is the Changi POW camp. Our group, during this endeavour, interviewed war veteran David Trist, who participated in World War II and gave us some insight into capturing POWs and how they were treated. He told us a story about himself sharing a cigarette with a Japanese soldier, which we found really great and touching. Our school, Erskine Park High School, is located in Western Sydney, Australia, and this project has helped us develop our skills in the area of history and research and opened our eyes to another side of humanity.
So, would you like to tell us your name and where you're from?
My name is Frank Stevens. I'm from Australia and I served in the Australian 8th Division in World War II.
So, Frank, would you like to share with us your experiences as a prisoner of war in World War II?
Well, my first day working on the Thai-Burma Railway, well, first off, when you're working there, it is hot. You just don't get any breaks, and it's just very hard. It's just hard work. And on my first day there, I was digging up a hole, and I slipped and I hit my head on the on like a pile of rocks on the side, and I was knocked out, and I was taken to the sick bay, where I was then moved to work on the latrines and shoveling them up.
So, Frank, why were you moved?
I was moved jobs. Well, the men around the camp aren't allowed to move jobs around, but we always made an effort to make life easier around the camps and really just help one another out.
Alright, wake up, yeah. You're awake now. Alright, you've had a head trauma, alright? Now, do you remember much?
No, I just remember falling and then just this pain in my
Alright,
head.
you're working on the Burma Railway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We're gonna rotate jobs because you obviously no fit to actually work on the Burma Railway
yeah,
anymore.
it's just
We're gonna
very-
get you digging the trees.
Okay.
Alright?
Thanks.
Right.
Thanks, Doc.
One day I was walking past a prayer group which we found along the camp a lot, and I kind of listened into the words, and I found that they weren't saying stuff about God or Jesus or anything. They were actually saying news about the war. They spoke about how Winston Churchill had dropped bombs, and this was now a way to spread news amongst the camp in large groups without the guards finding out.
Down onto the hills of the Iron Cross, Brother Winston rains down golden eggs, delivering us righteous retribution for his horrible acts. In the name of the Lord. Now join me in this celebration of the Lord. Holy Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Holy Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Holy, thy kingdom come, it shall be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Thy kingdom come, it shall be done, as earth as in heaven.
Amen.
Being stuck in the camps and pretty much just doing the same thing day in, day out, the men around the camp, we kind of grew a sense of, we wanted to know news about the war, and we wanted to know if our loved ones were safe, and just hearing any news about it just boosted morale around the whole camp, and it was really special to see amongst the men.
What are you doing? Just sweeping, sir. Just sweeping.
Communication and knowledge of the outside world was limited to the POWs, so people who had knowledge to create devices that were able to communicate to the outside world had a very big following. One of the main men who were known for making radios was Lieutenant Russell Wright. Lieutenant Russell Wright was a member of the 8th Australian Division, meaning he was a volunteer. The 8th Australian Division was intended to join the other Australian divisions in the Middle East. When the war began with Japan in 1941, the group was divided into 4 groups, deployed all over the Asia Pacific. Most members of the division were captured and taken as POWs. Russell Wright had time to work with his father before he volunteered to go to war, and this is where he learned to make radios. Russell Wright was good at not just making radios, but disguising them. Every day, the guards would thoroughly search the camps, and Russell Wright was never caught using, making, or having possession of a radio. Russell Wright was very intelligent in the way he delivered the information as well. During the day, he would gather the information, and at night write it down on a piece of paper. He would then pass it to someone anonymously. The two people never met, so that if one was caught, the other one would be safe. Another way the men were able to transfer the information was in toilets. In this picture, we are able to see Russell Wright construct one of the famous radios. We are able to see he didn't have much to work with, only a self-made screwdriver and a broom. In this photo, we are able to easily identify what Russell Wright used and how it works. By the looks of it, he used parts of clocks, electric tools, and even self-made equipment.
Don McLaren was 19 when he was captured and sent to the prisoner of war camps in 1942. He spent 3 years as a prisoner of war and was relocated multiple times. He eventually ended up at the Thai-Burma Railway. He kept a diary on cigarette wrappers and any paper he could find. This was very dangerous because if he was caught, he would have been severely punished. Despite these risks, Don kept a diary with him and fortunately survived the war. When he survived, he brought the diary home with him. This diary was published in 1998 as a book. It was called Mates in Hell. This is a picture of the published version.
Oh, you see that Tommy over there?
Oh, yeah. There. Oh, there's a tree.
Yeah, he looks like a mango tree, dude.
Oh, wait, mangoes? We haven't eaten in ages.
Bro, that would be so good to
We're
take.
starving.
Wait, we should just take the entire tree.
Yeah, true. How are we going to get it, though? How?
Maybe we need some sort of, like, disguise. Maybe,
Yeah, we can trick him.
Maybe we can trick him into thinking that it's toxic.
Oh, great idea.
And disguising ourselves as scientists to go and clean up the toxic waste.
Yeah.
But actually, we're stealing the mango tree.
Oh, great idea. I think I remember, like, the Japanese had, like, lab coats or something. I heard they were doing experiments. Actually, yeah, I had a friend who got experiment. It didn't go well.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, anyway.
We should go take those lab coats
Yeah,
from them.
let's go steal them now.
Tommy!
This is better than grass.
Ah, Tommy, stop! Stop! It's toxic. You can't eat it. It's toxic.
It'll kill you if you eat it.
It's
Why?
tainted ground.
During the time of the war on the Pacific, the locals were deeply impacted by the war. Armies rolled in to their native land and would take their crops for the war and would also use their space to set up camps and prisons. The locals were therefore frequently bombed by American and Australian forces. With the arrival of prisoners of war at the Thai-Burma Railway, local Thai workers fled the construction site of the railway. This left only the POWs to work on the construction. The local Thai people could observe the harsh and intense labour that the POWs endured and grew a sense of sorrow and sympathy for them. They decided to supply the POWs with items such as money, medicines, food from outside the camp, and even radio parts. Along with this, they supplied the POWs with certain information that they craved and treasured, news about the war. All of this came with the risk of being caught, and the locals knew of the punishments that could be given to them if they were caught. However, this did not stop them from helping. One Thai man that helped the POWs was a man named Boon Pong Sirivijapan, who was a shopkeeper. He had direct access to the railway construction site as he was instructed by the Japanese to provide rations and supplies to the workforce. However, in secret, Boon Pong worked alongside a resistance of POWs that laid inside the camp. He brought the resistance life-saving medical supplies, but also grew great danger on not only himself, but his daughter as well. This here is a picture of Boon Pong Sirivijapan. Men of the Line, a biographical novel about Gordon Nelson's time during World War II. He speaks of his time in the army and being a prisoner of war. Throughout his time in POW camps, there were always men trying different ways to get news about the war, whatever the cost was. However, Gordon Nelson speaks of a time himself and other men working in the camps would be sent down to the docks in Singapore to help work. During their time, he spoke about local villages and how they would tell them about news going on in the war. Getting caught speaking to locals came with painful punishment, usually a bashing with a bat type object. Locals were also forbidden in contacting with prisoners, and therefore the risk of punishment was placed upon them as well. This here is a picture of Men of the Line, a book by Gordon Nelson.
Most forms of conventional communication within the camps were heavily restricted or censored. Majority of letters were straight up not sent, and you couldn't speak to people outside of the camps. So if the POWs or the people inside the camps wanted to get information out or in, they had to find other alternative or more secretive methods of getting the information in or out. One of these less conventional forms of communication technology was through quilts. A lot of the nurses and majority of the women in the camps were asked to make quilts by the Japanese soldiers, mainly to relieve boredom and to assist injured soldiers. One of these nurses was one Margaret Smallwood, which not only helped with the quilts, but helped with a variety of other secretive messages to get out, and also helped the children getting food and such. Majority of these nurses and women in the camps took the opportunity of making these quilts in order to get messages out through signatures, flags, and the whatnot. It was overall, a lot of them were just simply to boost morale in the camps, in the other camps, to talk to their loved ones, or just spread religious messages. The messages didn't need to be really hidden that much due to the fact that a lot of the Japanese guards didn't really look at it that much or didn't know English, so they didn't really know it was on the quilts, they only really cared that something was on them. In this picture here, you can see what the quilts looked like and roughly how large they were, how many patches they were, and examples of what the patches look like. And in this picture here, you can see a specific example of one of the patches. You can see that there's a Welsh flag and a little Welsh phrase that translates to, well, Wales forever.
This is a picture of the camera Aspinall used in the Thai Burma railway to capture his photos. Aspinall captured his photos secretly using a folding 620 Kodak Brownie in a place where there was a strict regulation against photography. Aspinall hid the camera in his kidney belt, a lengthy elastic band worn around the torso, from his Japanese oppressors. This placed both him and his fellow POW members in a great risk of corporal and possibly capital punishment. Afterwards, Aspinall would develop his negatives furtively without attracting attention and store them within a hole constructed nearby a latrine, a toilet generally located in the barracks. Ordered back to Changi by Lieutenant Colonel Frederick Gallagher in 1944, Aspinall managed only to smuggle a small percentage of the photographs. Most of the photographs were retrieved by the same Lieutenant Colonel Frederick Gallagher, then delivered back to Aspinall at the end of the war. In Changi, Singapore, there was an event called the Selarang Barracks Incident, where 15,000 POWs were punished to confinement when they refused to sign a no-escape treaty with their Japanese oppressors. In this picture, there is massive chaos as people are running around scared of what the Japanese might do to them. This is a picture of three angular and scrawny Australian POWs situated at Shimo Songkrai camp, standing directly outside the camp's medical center. The first man from the right of the photograph has a protruding belly, and his shorts are unable to be tightened around his waist. As a result, this is a sign of beriberi, a famous disease in the Thai Burma railway that many POWs contracted as a result of poor diet and particularly the lack of vitamin B intake. Beriberi can even lead to heart failure as it causes faster heartbeats and even death. This is a picture of Thai food vendors selling local food to the POWs and Air Force. The group Aspinall was assigned to by the Japanese troops, who had to endure a compulsory and tiring march in order to work at the Thai Burma railway. In this picture, it shows the struggles of the Thai people. They have simple camps and little regard to hygiene, looking at the buckets and the food out. This is a picture of the Australian troops of the Air Force returning to Changi after a long day's work at the railway. This picture highlights the dangers from working on the railway, as we can see the sheer cliffs and difficult conditions. This is a picture of a group of skin and bones malnourished Australian POWs working on the Thai Burma railway. This shows that the Australian POWs had to work under harsh conditions and were given the bare minimum of the necessities of life, such as food, water, etc.
Using secrecy in the POW camps, Aspinall managed to collect vital data, including the brutality of the Japanese soldier guards and the harsh sufferings of the Australian POWs. thus giving future generations a chance to witness the savagery and cruelty of war in the Pacific Theatre. Private George Aspinall was born in Old Unique, New South Wales during the 18th of October 1917, in the midst of the First World War. As Aspinall grew up, he worked as a motor mechanic and ended up being enlisted to the Second World War on 1st of July 1941 at Paddington, New South Wales. On 29th of July 1941, Aspinall joined the 230th Infantry Battalion, an Australian military group that focused in the towns of Johor and Jamas of Malaysia, as well as Singapore Island. When the island of Singapore fell into Japanese hands during February 1942, Aspinall became a POW, prisoner of war, confined to Changi Jail for approximately a year before being transported to the Thai-Burma Railway on April 4, 1943. As a POW in World War II under Japanese rule, there were uncompromising regulations against the use of cameras, and as photos would have served as legal evidence against the war crimes of the Japanese. However, against all restrictions and concealed from the Japanese captures, Aspinall managed to capture more than 200 photos of the Changi Power Camp and Thai-Burma Railway, some of which include the following.